Canada's Crossroads. Mark Carney confronts the nation's biggest challenges. Prime Minister Mark Carney is facing one of the most complex periods in recent Canadian history. From economic shocks triggered by U.S. tariffs to defense spending, immigration backlogs, and infrastructure battles, Canada finds itself at a crossroads. Carney's leadership is now being tested on multiple fronts, and his responses are shaping the country's future. Economic strain under U.S. tariffs. The Canadian economy has been hit hard in 2025. Recent data shows that the GDP shrank by 1.6% in the second quarter, worse than the expected 0.6% decline. This follows a 2% contraction earlier in the year. Economists point to U.S. tariffs, particularly on autos, steel, and aluminum, as the main driver of the slowdown. Exports of cars and light trucks to the U.S. have fallen by nearly 25%, hammering one of Canada's most important industries. Carney responded by removing Canada's retaliatory tariffs in an attempt to ease tensions. While some progress has been made, a comprehensive trade deal with Washington remains out of reach. The irony is that even as the trade war escalated, Canadians invested record amounts in U.S. securities, showing that economic pragmatism continues to outweigh politics. Still, the trade battle remains the biggest economic challenge of Carney's early tenure. A strategic defense pivot. Carney has also moved to strengthen Canada's sovereignty by investing heavily in defense. His government has pledged to meet NATO's 2% of GDP defense spending target by 2026, 5 years earlier than planned, and has gone further by committing to 5% of GDP by 2035. This increase will fund submarines, ships, aircraft, and high-tech programs such as artificial intelligence and quantum defense systems. Importantly, Carney has made it clear that Canada will reduce its dependence on U.S. equipment like the F-35 fighter jet, seeking instead to boost domestic production. This strategy reflects his long-term vision, a Canada less dependent on Washington and more capable of defending its own sovereignty. Infrastructure. Nation-building projects. To kickstart growth, Carney has launched several mega-projects. One of the most significant is a new oil pipeline to Canada's west coast, which he has signaled as highly likely to move forward. The project is designed to diversify Canada's energy exports and reduce reliance on U.S. markets. In addition, Carney has created the Major Projects Office under the One Canadian Economy Act. Based in Calgary, the office will fast-track approvals and financing for critical infrastructure projects, while also tackling interprovincial trade barriers. For Carney, these projects are more than just about economics, they are about building a united and resilient Canada. Immigration system under pressure. Canada's rapid population growth has put its immigration system under severe strain. By early 2025, the country's population hit 41.5 million, with temporary residents making up more than 7%. The backlog of immigration applications has grown to over 2 million, including nearly 900,000 temporary residence requests and 850,000 for permanent residents. In response, Carney has reduced permanent residence targets, cutting admissions to 395,000 for 2025 and scaling back further in subsequent years. However, critics argue that lowering targets doesn't solve the problem of processing delays and public frustration. Carney admits the system is overloaded, but insists reforms are underway to restore efficiency and fairness. Climate and Energy Balancing Act. Environmental policy has been one of the most contentious areas for Carney. On his first day in office, he scrapped the consumer carbon tax, saying it had become too divisive. However, the industrial carbon tax remains in place, and a final rebate was issued to households. At the same time, his government has upheld Canada's ambitious electric vehicle mandates, 20% of sales by 2026 and 100% by 2035. Carney has also pushed for investments in clean energy and carbon capture. This balancing act reflects his pragmatic style, maintaining climate goals while reducing economic strain on households. Diplomacy and global standing. Carney's foreign policy is marked by two key themes: rebuilding relations and diversifying partnerships. The recent thaw with India, after nearly a year of frozen diplomatic ties, has been one of his government's biggest successes. By appointing new high commissioners in Ottawa and New Delhi, Canada and India are signaling a willingness to reset relations. Carney has also worked to expand Canada's role in NATO and the G7, emphasizing that Canada must be a builder of bridges in a fractured world. The bigger picture. Taken together, these policies paint a picture of a prime minister who is betting on resilience and sovereignty. By boosting defense spending, investing in nation-building projects, and reforming immigration, Carney is trying to prepare Canada for a world of economic shocks, geopolitical rivalry, and climate pressure. Yet challenges remain enormous. The economy is shrinking, trade disputes with the U.S. remain unresolved, immigration backlogs frustrate newcomers, and environmental debates continue to divide the public. Snapshot: Carney's key challenges. Issue: Carney's action economy removed retaliatory tariffs, still negotiating trade deal with U.S. defense NATO 2% target by 2026, aim for 5% by 2035, boost domestic production infrastructure West Coast Pipeline, major projects office launched immigration reduced targets, tackling 2M plus backlog environment scrapped consumer carbon tax, upheld EV mandates diplomacy restored ties with India, reinforced NATO and G7 role. Final thoughts. Prime Minister Mark Carney is walking a tightrope. His policies reflect a vision of a stronger, more independent Canada, but they also highlight the immense pressures facing the nation. The coming months will be crucial. If Canada can stabilize its economy, manage immigration, and deliver on infrastructure while strengthening defense, Carney may succeed in reshaping Canada's role at home and abroad. If not, the challenges could overwhelm even his carefully calculated strategies. For now, one thing is clear: Canada is at a historic crossroads, and Mark Carney is determined to keep the country moving forward.